Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Popby Realty Podcast. Today's conversation, this is a very important one. Not because we're here to recruit, but because we're here to be honest. And that's really the goal here. One of the biggest questions agents ask is whether or not considering or what it is that they think about when considering making a change. People talk about splits, people talk about caps. That's pretty much the obvious. But one of the reasons that we've decided to come together today is to really explore from the heart what that might look like. And so the question really is, why did you leave where you were and why did you find yourself here at Popby?
Like, to be clear, this isn't going to be a sales pitch. It's just a real conversation between people who've been in the business long enough to know when something works and when it doesn't anymore. You know, some things are broken and need to be fixed, and that's kind of, we're here to fix it. So I'm here with Rome Gregorio. He's the founder of Popby Realty, and we're also joined by our newest agent, Cody Posey. Cody and I both came from traditional brokerages, and there's nothing wrong, like on paper, but there's stuff that's missing. And today we're going to talk about what that was, what made us hesitate to leave our traditional brokerages, and ultimately why we made the decision to move.
All right, so one thing about me is Cody Posey, it's I chose to move brokerages just recently. I wasn't searching for another brokerage. I wasn't looking for another brokerage. Just something kind of landed in my lap. But there was something even with the previous brokerage I'm with, I have nothing but great things to say about them. There was a lot of things for me as a real estate agent that I was seeing that was just missing. And really just to kind of kick this off a little bit, and I'm going to let kind of questions and answers go with this. It really started with it wasn't a culture thing, but it was more or less like, where does real estate go in the future? Because over the past few years, there's been a lot of changes in real estate and how real estate is conducted. And with my background in the Army, one of the answers that I have never been okay with is this is because this is the way we've always done it. Because I've always believed that there is always a different way or potentially a better way. And it doesn't mean that the system's broken. It just means we just adapt up over time. I'm just going to start right there, and I'm going to let y'all ask the questions, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah. So Cody, real quick, give us a little bit of background on you. I know you were in the Army, but can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Yeah, so in the United States Army, I was an infantry guy for 20 years. I was over in Iraq a couple times, in Afghanistan. I finished out my career as a first sergeant up there at West Point. I was the senior enlisted leader for the Department of Military Instructions up there, which means it's I was the executioner training and really oversaw the training and everything else. From there, when it comes to United States Military Academy, it doesn't get any better than that for me. It was a family decision that we decided to retire instead of push on. And then when I retired out of the Army, I came down and moved back down to New Braunfels, where our family was stationed at back in 2016. And we immediately fell in love with New Braunfels in the Hill Country area. Once I retired out, it was one of the hardest things and the hardest transition that comes in the Army is it's figuring out what you want to do next. And where I started off at, because a lot of infantry guys and a lot of people in the military period, everybody pushes them towards project management, which really goes into it's very systems oriented. I didn't want to be stuck in a cubicle. I love people. I like to work with people. I like to educate. And I have to be out and about. That was one of the things that made the infantry great, is because you're doing something different every single day. So with that, I chose to work with a company, a fantastic remodeling company named Power Home Remodeling. They brought me on as a remodeling consultant, and I was consulting people on the conditions of the exteriors of their house. And I did this for 2 years, everything from roofs, windows, doors, gutters, and taking a look at the foundation and everything else. And as I was in that journey, I loved it. I had a lot of fun. But one thing about it, when you're in a position like that, you're traveling all over Timbuktu. And so one of the biggest reasons we got out of the Army is so I could be around family a whole lot more. So got out of that, and as with just making the jump into realty from there. I did this back in early 2024, back in March of 2024. And the reason why I chose realty, because again, is I have a love for houses. I've owned homes since 2005. I've had investment homes, And essentially I've managed my own properties for a while. So I was like, okay, I understand this industry very, very well. Even though as a real estate agent, I may only be 2 years deep, but in reality, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. And I wanted to provide my knowledge, my help out, especially like my persona is genuine. It's about education and helping people and giving them information so they can make informed decisions. And that's really what led my journey. And it's like with the first realtor company I started off with, Phil's Brown and Company, fantastic brokerage. They were very good to get me started up on my feet. But as I was making through my way, the journey there, I was on a team for a while, a great team with Dave Abrams, amazing realtor. I chose to leave that team because I wanted to work on my own in my own area, and to really be that subject matter expert in that area, and just learn how to grow my own business essentially. So I did that, and then I was with just working with the office here. And one of the big things that the office is missing, and I don't think it's just any office, is there's no camaraderie in the office. You don't have people there. You're not talking to each other. You're not really learning to meet each other unless you get somebody up on the phone. And I understand. I mean, I get so busy where I get caught up in the weeds, but having those people around you to discuss situations and everything else, that is still very, very important. But also I wanted to take real estate and really bring it up and really catch up in my business model of how to leverage the outside assets that you can have to really expand it, not just not for myself, but for the consumer so they could quickly process and find a house and understand everything. But in order for me to do that, my processes have to be streamlined for me to have order at that time. And that's where Popby Realty came in, is like you have everything within the office where you have agents coming in, because I pop up in the office all day. If I'm around, it's easy for me to go directly to Rome or hit Matthew up. I mean, just directly in the office without being in an actual physical building where everybody's empty and nobody likes to answer their phones because they already get 100 phone calls a day.
Yeah, that's true. And
just want to see if I could jump in. Cody, just huge props for you, bro. I mean, just a whole lot of respect and love for you and your service history and the amount of time and dedication you put in for serving our country. And it's just amazing for me to hear. It just gives me chills, really, to be so proud to work alongside you in this space, because, that's no easy task to come from. And what it tells me is, and I know this, personally, but maybe our audience doesn't, that you're such a man of character and have, dedication, that you mentioned camaraderie. It's that community, it's that culture of, wanting to work together because we're stronger together than we are independently. It just, reminds me that it's just a blessing for me to be able to come to work every day and know that I get to work alongside guys like you.
No, I really appreciate it. And that camaraderie, that character, that is like, it is very, very important to me and everything else. And and I had that. I mean, I did have that in the team. It just wasn't the way, the shape, or the area that I wanted in, because this is what the Popby Realty of where we're going real estate in the future. It also takes everything, all that, and you're able to grow your own business around it. And you don't have to depend on other people around you to generate your business. So just flirting ideas, like just talking to Matt, just straight up on like how he utilizes YouTube. You teach at the Champion School of Real Estate, so there's a lot of like information that can just be that's just brought in immediately. It's an amazing opportunity for me, and it's definitely the right choice for me.
Yeah, so Cody, I know so Rome and I have known each other since the beginning of 2018. That's when I was transitioning, leaving the New Braunfels Police Department and going into real estate full time. And I'd met Rome whenever we were at our first brokerage together. And then we met Cody. Cody, we met at like a model home one time, like out in, was it Mayfair?
Mayfair.
Yeah. And so briefly, we got to meet briefly over there. And then we all came back together again in a Bible study that we do at a little local Mexican restaurant every Friday. I won't be there this Friday. I've got a golf tournament, but the one that I play in every year. But yeah, so, it was, and then So yeah, it's just kind of cool that the circles just kind of come back together, and bring us here today. So Cody, I know you'd heard Rome and I talk a little bit about Popby, kind of after we're wrapping up Bible study and all, and then you'd see my Facebook post, and you were actually, I was going to reach out to you, like that day that you talked to me. My plan was to be like, hey, I know you're forward thinking, you're really into AI. I would really like to talk to you about Popby Realty. But what made you reach out to me that morning?
Matthew, Rome, as we talked, like everything has a full life circle and everything has a reason for everything. And I completely believe that. And God's direction for me, it's the way I see things and the way it is like he utilizes every situation. And then when it's time for you to move on, it's time for you to move on. And sometimes I think, as a man of God, that I strive to be, is just trying to listen and just taking those leaps of faith. And like the leaps of faith for me is like, I knew when it was time, and I knew when it was time to get out of the Army. And then getting the opportunity of power home remodeling. And then I knew when it was time for me to leave that job. That was a very difficult job to leave. And then jumping into real estate blind and the opportunity brought with the team I was on. And then it came to a point I knew that God's like, okay, it's time to go do your own thing. And with that, there's a lot of pain that was brought within to that. And I'm not talking about the pain that the surgery that we talked about the other day, but that was part of it, but there's a lot of pain that was brought onto that. And then just trying to learn and figure things out as a solo agent. And then as stuff is starting to scale in business, and then the opportunity was brought up because I really wasn't looking for another brokerage because PBC does a very good job, but God, like when you approached me that morning, is like, God's like, yeah, it's this is it. So it's amazing. The journey is never going to be like Army, Popby Realty. There's many steps that are going to go in between, because I truly believe God prepares you with each situation. And Popby Realty may not be the end for me. I don't know, but it's where he has led me now.
Yeah, same, man. I've been through, oh gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4 different brokerages before I was here. I'm in my 10th year right now. I've been with one brokerage twice, but yeah, that morning, Cody's like, hey, I'd like to hear more about this Popby and whatnot whenever you have a few minutes. And I'm like, I've got a few minutes right now. So we were at the table, everybody else had cleared out. We just sat right back down and talked for about another 20 or 30 minutes about everything, and then jumped on a call with Rome. But yeah, I joined Popby in early December, and I was at a point where I had been looking for something else. I was considering getting out of, hanging up my real estate license and possibly going and working in the title industry or something. I needed something else. And I'd been praying for God, to God, like, hey, just leave me where I'm supposed to be, and had a couple of interviews with title companies, and one went with another one, and another was like, hey, we want to have you, but we need an escrow officer to go with you. And I reached escrow officers that I knew, and a lot of people had already made changes recently. Like there was a big shift in 2025 for escrow officers and everybody there, title reps. So nobody was going to leave again. And I had already met with Rome. Like Rome had never mentioned Popby. I saw him post it on LinkedIn one day. And so, we're in the same Bible study and all, but I hadn't really talked to him about business in a while. And I just texted him and I said, hey, I saw you started a new brokerage. Congratulations. I'd love to hear more about it. And then we met for breakfast one day. And whenever he's telling me about everything, I was just blown away. I was like, wow. I even told him, I was like, hey, whenever you talk to anybody else about this, my recommendation is you have them sign a non-disclosure agreement. So, because there's some stuff that's going to be coming up that we're not releasing yet. But yeah, there's some really exciting things coming in the future. And I just knew at that point, I was like, man, that'd be so cool to be a part of this. And, Rome and I, we're still going to Bible study after that. And then I told him, I was like, hey, how's it going? how's it going with Popby? And he's like, hey, I'd like to talk to you more about it. So we set up a meeting right here in Popby land, kind of like we're doing right now. And whenever he sent me the link, and I'm like, okay, we'll see what this is. And, I logged on that morning and I saw what Popby land was. And I saw the fact that we could do this, we could see each other. So for the listeners, they're listening on a podcast and not watching this on YouTube, like we've got 4 tiles, up here. It's me, it's Rome, it's Cody, and it's Camille. And we're in Popby land, but we can see each other and interact kind of like we're on a Zoom call. I've been with another brokerage that was cloud-based that had something similar. It was a little bit harder to navigate, but you didn't have this feature to where you could see each other. All you saw was the avatars. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And when Rome started talking to me more about it, I was very interested. And one of the things that really drew me to Popby was the life circles. So something that Rome developed was, we're not doing business in rows. We do business in circles, because when you're in a row, you're looking forward. You're not necessarily looking to the side. Your peripheral only goes so far. But when you're in a circle, you see each other and it's easier to collaborate. And that's what the life circles were about. It's about collaboration. And that's something that's really missing with traditional brokerages. And I've been with, honestly, I've been with probably the 3 biggest, in the US or even in the world, brokerages. And in all of them, you didn't get collaboration. Sometimes you might have a team leader or an assistant team leader, whatever you want to call them, that's kind of reaching out to people, but they don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the capacity to reach out to everybody enough. And I was on with one of them, I was on their leadership council without naming, who it was. And we tried that, we would have, where we would go and sit up in front of everybody and they can bounce questions off of us at team meetings and whatnot. But whenever we tried something like, hey, there's, a few of us would get together and be like, hey, we're going to have this mastermind and y'all are more than welcome. Whoever wants to come on. And then, us leadership council members are going to be there and you can ask us anything you want. We got, we're here for you. And we had like one person show up for whatever reason. But that one person, she got so much information. It's like drinking through a fire hose that day. And, but there was just, I don't know, there was gatekeeping. There wasn't the collaboration. So the fact that, as me, I've been heavy on buyers, my whole career, and to be able to share what I've learned, my experiences, my training and everything that I've got with buyers, to be able to share that with other agents is big for me. So, I love helping people and I love to help other people succeed. And, but it was just harder to do that somewhere else. And yeah, Cody, the same thing, coming from a law enforcement background and, you question something like, why are we doing this? And it's because that's the way we always done it. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me when people say that. It's just like, oh, really? That's your best answer? Like, oh, do better, come back. And yeah, so the fact that Rome is coming up with something that is completely different, because Rome was in a position to where he's hearing everything, these top franchise owners talk about, why things are broken and how it's broken and whatnot, but then they're handcuffed to their franchises and they can't do anything about it. And Rome's like, I got no handcuffs on me. I can do something about it. And he did. He took action. Mm-hmm. So the biggest part was the collaboration aspect, because you could go to a team meeting, if you're in person and you go into the office for the team meeting and you're kind of going to shake some hands, be visible, and for the free lunch, right? Because what they're providing is just training for the masses. And it might not be the training you need. I mean, I've sat through many team meetings over there and I was just like, really? I was like, I don't need to hear this. This is just, I didn't need it. It wasn't beneficial to me. And, but with life circles, I'm leading a life circle for buyer's agents and another life circle for YouTube. And, Cody would be leading a life circle for AI, maybe a life circle for veterans. Rome's a veteran as well. So, Rome will be leading circles for residential and farm and ranch. So, we're looking for people And again, it's not a sales pitch, but we are looking for people that have a lot to share. And then maybe you're a little bit fed up with where they're at, because I mean, I've come, from like a conference and I wanted to share stuff about leverage that I had learned. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I go to my leadership and I tell them, I was like, hey, I need the training room. I want to share this. And they're like, we kind of need to go through, the training council and whatnot, or the training committee before we can do all that. And I'm like, really? I was like, I just need like an hour. That's really all I need. And I'm getting, I have to jump hurdles just to provide information. And it was like, it's so frustrating. But yeah, with the life circles, and then also knowing Rome, because I know Rome's background, for having known him for, what are we at? We're going on 8 years this year. Yeah. Whatever Rome touches turns to gold, so Rome's very successful. He's driven, he's intelligent. He's not doing anything that's going to be just off the cuff and like, hey, we're going to figure it out on the way there. He had a plan and he's been working on this for a long time. So, Rome is one of the big reasons that I'm here. I'm like, yeah, if I can associate myself with Rome and what he's doing, then I know it's going to be successful. But yeah, those life circles they're going to be huge, because people can go and join in on a life circle meeting, and you're not just tied to one life circle. And, so if somebody wants to learn about buyer's agents that day, they can. And, if there's another time on the training calendar where, Cody's doing AI, cool, let me jump in on AI. Let me see what I can learn. And so we having access to all of that instead of just having access to the team meeting and any other, trainings and whatnot that might be happening here and there that are just kind of for the masses, then, it's a game changer. Definitely.
Hey, Matt,
Matt,
again, to bring huge props to you. I'm so honored to have you also a part of this team. The level of commitment and your experience being prior law enforcement. And I just know you have the spirit of fearlessness, man. You traveled around the globe with your family, and you pretty much, I love that story. Maybe we'll get to it on another podcast, how you pretty much sold everything and decided to live abroad with your family and experience life together and be present in the life of your young kids and your wife. Again, it's huge props to you because of your character and your determination. So it's just an honor to have this moment and opportunity to work together. And it's a we thing. I heard you say my name a lot, but I also got to give huge props to my daughter, Camille. I mean, Camille is co-founder of Popby Realty, and none of this would exist without her. I might be good at one or two things, but she's good at like everything. So, we can't do this. It's a team effort. And those life circles, it's just a way to do what we're doing today, which is face each other, lift each other up, encourage each other, be a resource for each other, and keep the right perspective. This isn't top-down management where somebody gets in front of a room, we all sit in rows, and let me talk to you and listen to me because I'm the smartest person in the room. That's totally not the case. This is truly a sense of community, because it's all hearts coming together, all eyes looking at each other saying, what do we need to do to help you? That's what life circles are, right? So huge props.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're listening this far and you're kind of fed up with where you're at, or you're looking for something different, reach out to us. Go to popbyrealty.com. You can reach Rome at popbyrealty.com, and same with Camille. It's Camille at popbyrealty.com, correct? And then Cody,
Posey at popbyrealty.com.
Yeah, and mine is Gary at popbyrealty.com. So, but yeah, you can go to the websites and get information. And if you're wanting to have a conversation, we would love to have that conversation with you. So, guys, I appreciate y'all being here today, and we'll see y'all in the next podcast.
Thank you, Matthew.